Good morning, everybody. This is one of the last workshops that we're giving in this academic year, boosting broader impacts. And what we're going to do today is introduce the Office of Research Development. We're one of the best kept secrets on campus. We'll go over why you need to address the significance of your research in terms of society, cover a few agencies' views on broader impacts, which I'm going to sometimes abbreviate as BI, define what those desired societal impacts are, and the real meat of this has to do with the importance of partnerships. Since this is about boosting broader impacts, it's particularly aimed at forming partnerships that will help you make a much broader impact than you would otherwise on your own. So we have 3 panel speakers, which I'll introduce later, some tips, best practices, and finally some questions. When the panelists start, you'll have the opportunity to ask them questions immediately after their presentations. Don't wait to the end, because both Sarita Acker and Barbara Spezial need to leave before 11 o'clock. So we want to get them in, your questions to them during the presentation. Our office is headed by Sheila Cotton. Dr. Cotton is the Associate VP for Research Development. She's only been here for a couple of years, so she's still learning about Clemson and has made a big impact already since she's been here. This is our team. Brett Levi, a lot of you will have corresponded with if you have questions about limited submissions or the R initiatives. And Morgan came on board most recently last summer, and she is helping with our various events, helping me with the Career Academy this time around, and also working on editing proposals. So there we are. We provide a bunch of resources for you. There's our URL if you want to go to our website and see what we've got going on for you. Please take advantage of the resources that we offer. From that page, you will also see a little button that allows you to request our services, and you can tell us what you need from us. And please do use that button, and that comes directly to all of our emails. I have a couple slides here just quickly to go over the sorts of services that we offer. Of course, there's proposal development and editing. We also will help you find collaborators. We can help you enhance interdisciplinary collaboration across colleges, across institutions. We offer various early career academies. There's the NSF Career Academy, which I lead. NIH Accelerator also is kind of semi under our purview. Workshops, of course, if you go to our website, you'll see an archive of the recordings and the slides that you can use on your own time, or if you want to review and memorize them, that's also great. We just launched recently a proposal repository, which you will find some examples of different sorts of proposals and sometimes different pieces of proposals. People even have given us their reviews, panel reviews. So it's really going to build into something that's extremely valuable tool for all of you to use. Tiger Severe is something that Sheila Cotton started since she's been here. It's kind of an idea incubator, and it's faculty driven. If you have an idea for what you might want to discuss with a room full of your peers from all sorts of departments on campus, please contact Sheila, and she will help you out with that. We also provide assistance with finding external evaluators and reviewers. We have kind of a several organizations, consulting organizations that we call on regularly, and we know other freelancers that we use and have had very good luck with. If you need help with forming and managing teams, we're also involved in that. We subscribe to some newsletters and a faculty guide to competing for research funding, also available on our website. Various aspects of grant seeking, pretty much whatever you can think of, we have our hands in, and of course our initiatives and the limited submissions. 2 things coming up. The last one's in this academic year, using faculty insight to boost your research. This is happening March 13th, so right before tax time. And we've got academic analytics staff coming so that you can use faculty insight better. You may have browsed through that from the research division homepage, but they're going to come and give us a hands-on workshop in using faculty insight. So it has to do with finding collaborators and funding opportunities, and it generates neat little network graphics and all sorts of things. So you can register at this very long URL. Probably you'll be getting an email about that will just have a little link button in it. Last one is Leap to Large. This is a workshop series that's a week long, and you have to be recommended by a department chair or school director and ADR to get in, but we limit it to 20 people. So this is going to be a really intense series of 2-hour workshops that help prepare PIs for going from those single investor, relatively simple proposals to the much more complex ones with all, so many more moving parts. Okay, so let's move on to the broader impact section. The reason that federal agencies require PIs in various ways to address significance of society these are multiple reasons. They really want all the PIs to recognize the fact that federally funded research must address the greater good. So it's not just about you and your lab or you and your students, but everybody else in the nation. So you as the PI have to buy into this idea that your endeavors are part of a much bigger picture, and then of course reflect that in your writing. The agencies also view this as a means to build trust with the communities that they serve. So when you are taking the time to identify broader impacts activities and thinking about beyond the intellectual merit and the inherent scientific merit or educational merit of the sorts of proposals that you're writing, then what else is there? So this, they believe, is going to just build good faith with the public. And of course, they want to make sure that the public thinks that the taxpayer money going to research is a good thing. So all these things are helpful. I've got just then a few examples of how this plays out in some of the agencies. The NIFA, for example, is all about the competitiveness of American agriculture. And so, this is their official set of emphasis areas. Kind of their mission encompasses all these things. You can see that it is directly aimed at the well-being of American citizens. So as a result, in proposals to NIFA, they're going to ask you right away to articulate the community needs. And for NIFA, that community is the stakeholder community. So it's infused then throughout the entire proposal, whereas in some other agencies, such as NSF, for example, it can be really constrained to a particular broader impact section. But for NIFA, you have to show that you are impacting people's daily lives and therefore our future. If you're writing for NIH, they require a public health relevance statement. You've got to say how it improves public health, and it's got to be written not for the specialists in the field, but again, for public consumption. Here's an example for an R01 proposal where the person states that the goal is to explore self-sanitizing antibacterial surfaces. This is something that went in during, of course, COVID, and they were exploring whether or not using this blend of copper and a polymer would work. And the part that shades then over into the public health is in italics. Our project has a potential to reduce infections resulting from admission to a healthcare facility. So that's one notch up from just what is the intellectual or scientific merit, and then another notch up says the impact of this technology could be transferred to other healthcare settings. So it expands it out even further from VA hospitals. So that's a couple examples. With NSF, reviewers are asked to evaluate in every single proposal the broader impacts, which have to do with the potential of the proposed work to benefit society or advance desired societal incomes. So what does desired societal incomes or outcomes mean? One might ask. So it's the improvement of education and educators at any level. So this it's K to grave, really. Increase in public scientific literacy is very important. If your research is going to enhance the infrastructure or resources for education, student training, practitioner training, workforce development, all that's included. Of course, improved well-being of individuals in society. This takes various forms I've listed. Improved quality of life, sustainability these days is also very important. They want you to be building a STEM workforce, has to be diverse, has to be globally competitive, better have activities aimed at getting more women, persons with disabilities, and underrepresented, underserved groups in STEM. Please note that the definition of what an underrepresented minority is differs with each field, so you have to know what group exactly you need to target. It can also have to do with creation of environments that are diverse, equitable, inclusive, and accessible. Okay. And last but not least, of the desired social outcomes, enhancement of partnerships between academia and academics and other entities. So those could be companies, they could be local governments, they could be other government agencies, anything they see as a partnership is of value, because again, it leverages their money and also makes your impact broader, and hopefully results in not only increased economic competitiveness, but just a better life for us all. So with that, we get to our partnerships slide. It's really important, I think, for PIs working on broader impacts to not try to go it alone. I see this time and time again in proposals with PIs just trying to claim that they're going to change the world just by adding a couple of female grad students to their projects, for example, or maybe it's a handful of female graduate students or African Americans. You know, I'm going to partner with a Hispanic serving institution, but it's only one person there, and it's only two or one student from one faculty, you know, at that institution. This sort of thing doesn't cut it when you're up against people who have partnered with backbone organizations of various sorts that provide them with a framework, automatically expand the impact of the broader impacts activities. So I just brainstormed and listed some here. There are many, many more that you can think of. I've got kind of clumps and stuff on the left-hand side, and others on the right. But we have today with us then some representatives from various organizations. Two of them are Clemson specific, and another one is not. So I'm going to introduce you to our panel speakers. Up first is going to be Sarita Acker, who is the director of Peer and Wise, it's Programs for Educational Enrichment and Retention, Women in Science and Engineering. After her will be Dr. Spezial. Barbara Spezial is the director of the Creative Inquiry Program, which in my experience, the funding agencies love hearing about because it has to do with can be arranged such that your creative inquiry group is interdisciplinary. Maybe it's going to be managed to some extent by a graduate student. Maybe those students in the creative inquiry program are going to help you. They actually help you with some facet of your proposed work. And last up is going to be Dominic Sanders. Dominic is the computer science state supervisor in the Office of Career and Technical Education and Student Transition Services. It's a mouthful. In the South Carolina Department of Education. And he has a great interest in working with Clemson faculty, partnering with them to achieve some of the goals of his office. So with that, I'm going to stop my screen share so Sarita can do hers.
Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be here and share about the Peer and Wise program. I'm going to try to share my screen just to give you a little background. Jane, thank you for this opportunity to share with faculty. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to try to put this up. As I am talking, Peer and Wise stands for Programs for Educational Enrichment and Retention in Women in Science and Engineering, and nobody remembers that but me. But the program is a outreach program, a retention program, and a recruiting program in some facets. And I was trying to share my screen so that I could nicely tell you about the different programs here, but as you can see, I'm having a little issue. I do apologize. Let me try once again and see what happens. The reason why we were started was because there were so many underrepresented students that were being not retained in the College of Engineering, Computing, and Applied Sciences. And so we started the program initially to retain students, but later on we found out that we also needed to kind of grow our own. So we do, again, as I say, some facets of recruiting and exposing underrepresented students to STEM. So our mission, we've been here for about 30 years or so at Clemson. And as I've already stated, our mission is to educate, recruit, and retain populations. We're open to everyone, but we do have a special mission to those that aren't at the table in numbers, underserved populations. We also have a goal to raise the retention rate of those students and to see more of them graduate with degrees from Clemson and just, help all students. As I told you before, we do it in 3 different ways. Outreach, recruitment, and retention. We have a lot of outreach programs. One of our outreach programs that we recently started was a program that was a $5 million investment, which I served as the PI, called Nix Engineers. And this program is a 5-year commitment with, at the end of the ones that are in our academy, get to have a $20,000 scholarship to attend any school in the world. This is something recent, and we have a lot of faculty members helping us by doing some of the design challenges for this particular grant. But this isn't on here. It just happened about 2 years ago, and I haven't updated. I'm sorry to say I should. The next part is that we do invite students here, and we have some opportunities there. And then retention, we do academic enrichment, coaching, mentoring. We don't. We also offer some, scholarships and opportunities to do undergraduate research and so forth. Now, before I take this slide down, this is not the updated number. I pulled up the wrong presentation, but this is pretty much it still. You can see that in our different areas, you can see the percentage. If you look down this first line here, you can see the percentage of African American students, Hispanic students, Native American students, which for me, those are our target areas. We want to see, and women as well. You can see that, how many women we have and the percentage there. And so at the end of the day, we see all of these different groups that you see above are the ones that we target our services to and try to get this population to grow. So I want to stop sharing and just pause and say, does anyone have any questions about the program, why it was started, and what we do? If not, I want to say that I am approached a lot of times for people to do support letters after being here for over 30 years and being in the College of Engineering and Science for almost 20 or so. I've had a lot of faculty members come and want to partner with me due to the broader impacts portion of the grants. And I'm very excited about that. But lately, I have decided that I wanted to know more about the people that I was doing support letters for, because actually, again, I'm asked to do it quite a bit. So I report directly to Dr. Thompson Melford in the College of Engineering, and he and I recently devised a form, and I'm going to show you that on the screen in just a second as well. And I want you to, if you send an email to me and you said, Sarita, I'd like to work with your program, I would ask you to fill this form out. And so just give me a second. But as I am pulling it up, I want you to know that basically it's asking about your background in diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's asking questions about what you know about our program. It's giving me more information about what you are trying to do within your grant. And then it's also telling you things that you can do in order to help us, in our broader impacts section of trying to increase the population. So I'm going to just pull that up. So this is my support letter request form that I recently devised with Thompson. And it basically just asked about your grant title, your grant summary, what kind of grant is it, who's the PI, who's the co-PI, who's the collaborators. And it also, if you need a bio sketch or something from me, I will, would like that as well. Then it talks about like what the broader impact statements that you would like to have. And I do know a lot of times with NSF, there's already the language is already there, and I basically just sign and say that I want to be a partner. But some grants do ask for a little bit more, and this is more from my side just to know what you're doing. It also asked about if you have a DEI statement, and it lists all the activities and training that you've done or your committee or whatever has done as you approach the grant. And it tells me when you want the support letter back, and then what amount of funding will be allocated to broader impacts. And then we go on down here and we talk about the things that you can do to aid us in our work. Like we do a lot of outreach, as I've told you, camps, visitation days, recruitment days. And then with the current students that we have here at Clemson, there's always opportunities to do undergraduate research, internships, study abroad opportunities, anything that we can do to give them opportunity, to retain them, to introduce them to them. And so if you send me a request, you're going to basically get this form back to give me information about you and you information about our program. And then we also point you to our website so that then you can go and find out more about us. So I just want to pause there to just let you know that I'm here and that like I said, I get a lot of requests, but I do want to know that we're aiding our students, that we're educating, the society about that we definitely need more, folks in STEM, and just trying to help you, achieve your goals of getting your grants funded. So thank you for the opportunity. If there are questions, I'm here to answer them, but if not, that's the process.
Sarita, I have a question. How soon do you want people to fill out this form and start the conversation with you?
You can fill out the form anytime you desire. I mean, you can fill it out now, and we can sit and meet and talk about things that you want to do, that can help us and we help you as well. Or a lot of people will fill it out, which is probably not always the best when they're getting ready to actually go after a certain grant. But I think having the conversation and being proactive so that whenever you, approach me, this will already be done. And we're doing this because, in our area, we're going through an ABET accreditation, and this also has, a desire that people are, doing DEI and, making sure that they're also, looking into the broader impacts as well. So this is what led us to say, what, we need to be more accountable and make sure that what we're doing when we send our support letters, instead of just signing something and not really knowing. The form is not available on the website. That's something that I can do. We just devised it. So when Jane reached out to me, I was like, this is very timely. But if you just send me an email and you have support letter in your body, this will automatically send to you and automatically come back to me.
So Sarita, can typically when people come to you and say, I want to include peer and wise in my project, are they looking to just fit into one of those activities you already have going, like Girl Scout Day and other things? Do they have something completely innovative and they're trying to find a way to implement it through your office?
I will tell you, Jane, is both. But for me, sometimes people that really are not real familiar with the program will ask me what can they do and what fits if they have some research or they want to, have undergraduate research opportunities, if they want to educate underrepresented populations about STEM. I mean, it's a variety of things. So in the forum, I tried to, put as much as I could think of, but it's not exclusive. So there may be other things that we did not think of, and I think that there will be room on the forum to say, hey, I'm not interested in any of this, but this is what I was thinking. But what I want to know when people ask me for a support letter, do you know about our program? What can we do to help each other? What can we give to each other to make sure that the students are getting information and getting opportunities? That's the best. That's the best working relationship for me and the program. And so I guess I want to say I'm flexible, but from all my years of doing support letters, I really want to know, like, if they get funded, are you going to come back and tell me? Are you really going to look for these opportunities? Because me just filling out a letter, I just can't do that any longer, because it's very pertinent that we do what we say, especially as an organization whose mission is to increase the pipeline of people underserved populations. So this is why Thompson and I decided that we would do it this way. So yeah, but I'm open, I'm flexible, but many faculty that want to do outreach may do modules for programs that already exist. I will tell you, I'm not in the business of starting any new programs. So if someone comes to me with that, I just don't have the capacity or the staff to do that. But maybe you can do a module for Girl Scouts Day or for STEM Day or whatever, thing that we already have in place. And it may be new to you, but I can't do any more unless somebody's going to provide that staff and that overhead to do it. Are there any more questions? If not, I want to thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to hearing from you. And if you have ideas, I'm open and I'm flexible, and I hope that I will get to meet many of you, and I wish you well as you approach your grant process. I'm not going to stay for the meeting. I have to go to another one, but Jane has my information, and I look forward to working with each of you.
Thank you, Sarita.
Hey, Sarita, someone asking that if your form was available on your website.
Yes, the form is not available. Actually, I just started the form about a month ago, but I stated that if you send an email and you say support letter, my email will automatically send you the form for you to fill out, and then it'll automatically send back to me once you filled it out. I think you forwarded it to me once you fill it out, and then if you want to meet, you just tell me that you can meet. I do plan to put it on the website, but like I said, it was very timely that Jane asked me this, because it was something that we just put into place.
Sarita, before you go, let me ask you another thing. So it sounds like maybe with that form being initiated, then one of the things that you want is for people to maybe report to you what happened with that project. Because, frankly, what I see is a lot of people just going like, oh, I'm going to slap Peer and Wise in here, and they might not even have talked to you about it
Right. That is why
beforehand.
that is why actually I approached Thompson, because I will tell you that I get these requests on a weekly basis.
Yep.
Not exaggerating. And of course, we're research one institution, and I want to help, but I need to know whether people are going to give back. And even if you don't get it, just like, I mean, if you're going to try again and you want me to write a letter, let's see how we can better tell you or help you meet that goal. And then, and just kind of, keep each other abreast of what's going on. And so I think that this will just works better for me. And I hope it will work better for people as well, because this gives them an idea of things that they can do and put in the grant. And so, I think it's a win-win for both parties.
Well, does your office put together any kind of a report at the end of every year, just saying like what happened with all these projects that you supported and what were the outcomes?
We have not traditionally, but the form will help us do this, because I'll be able to collect every form, and I'll be able to go back and maybe, send an email, a question, and say what happened with this, and even also keep up with trends of how many people are doing it. Because when Thompson took the position, I was like, I'm getting a whole lot of these requests, and he said, well, what is the return? What is happening with them? And a lot of times I have been, people will say, oh, broader impacts, let's just go meet with Peer and Wise and get a support letter. But I can no longer do that. And so this is why we have a process in place. And again, I think it's a win-win situation for everyone. And it kind of keeps both of the parties accountable. And it also, helps people know more about what they're wanting to collaborate with. If you don't know anything about my program, why do you want a support letter from me?
Right. Well, what I'm thinking of is if, for example, you come up with a summary statement, that describes the collective impact of all these projects in which you've been involved, then that provides PIs also with some language that they can put in their proposals to talk about. Again, it's the impact of that framework organization, the whole thing they're supporting, as opposed to them just, sucking the life out of you. So,
Wonderful.
yeah, it's the two-way street we're after here. So that's a great idea.
Well, if you have suggestions, I'll send you the form. And if your team say, okay, I think this is a better way that we can do it, I'm certainly open. So just let me know, Jane. I'll be definitely glad to work with you all to see what we can do together. But
Sure,
again, yeah,
that'd be
again,
good.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Are you also still the campus rep for SCAMP?
I am the campus rep for LS Scamp, but right now they did not go after the funding this past year. But I am considered the rep, and I do have conversations with South Carolina State. But I think they're going to go after the funds not this coming year at some point. I've been talking with the provost office and some folks in there about what the next steps are, because I don't know if you remember Judith Sally. She was the PI for most of the HBCUs in the area,
Yep.
and she has retired, and somebody else has taken her place. And so the ball has kind of been dropped there, but I am the contact as well as some other folks on campus as well, but I've been the lead. So yeah, if anybody's interested in collaborating with some of the HBCUs, LS AMP was a consortium of those some of the schools that are in South Carolina, and we had some summer bridge programs and did some undergraduate research for students, and we also had some people to help us with those efforts as well. So if you'd like to talk about that, I'm definitely open to that as well.
Yep. Thank you very much, Sarita.
Thank you. So I look forward to meeting all of you, and I hope you have a good morning, and thank you for the opportunity. So I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, Barbara, you're next up.
I was really pleased that Jane invited me to do this, but because like Sarita, I often get requests, though not every week, from faculty who are interested in using creative inquiry for their grant proposals. And we have always encouraged that. And I will always write a letter, even if you send it to me Sunday night and you need it on Monday, which has happened not unusually. I'm probably going to get Sarita's form and start using something like that myself. That would be useful. But anyway, so you can flip. This slide just shows you something that I'm going to talk about with creative inquiry, is that we are really flexible in what we do. So I'll just say next, Morgan. So next slide. So Jane said that there are a lot of new faculty on here, and I noticed that there are. I also see some creative inquiry veterans. So anytime they want to jump in, you're welcome to do so. But because we have new faculty, I decided to give you a overview of creative inquiry. So what is it? It's our campus-wide comprehensive undergraduate research program, spans all disciplines. And by that, I mean, not just the STEM colleges, all colleges. And the cool thing about creative inquiry is it's really flexible. You can do many, many things with it, and it's great for projects. So our mission is to provide undergrad students, it's an undergrad program, with mentored research and academic experiential learning, whatever that is coming to mean, and all the new discussions of it, and foster innovation through student-driven team projects. The way it works is you have a mentor, and it can be a faculty mentor. We also have grad students and staff members who can be mentors of creative inquiry teams. The mentors work with small teams of students, somewhere in the nature of 6-ish, 10-ish, anywhere under 20. Work with small teams of students. We like it to extend over multiple semesters, and the projects are embedded in 4-credit courses. Every department on campus has a set of creative inquiry courses. Most of them go from the 1,000 to the 4,000 level. Some departments have tweaked them a bit. So the students work in the teams in these courses on specific projects. So it's a research course. Cool thing about creative inquiry, the projects can be within your discipline. You can have a chemical engineering program, or you can have a program that's multidisciplinary, both in terms of the students and also the faculty. You can have multiple faculty or other mentors in the program. Jane mentioned something about, and Sarita did as well, sort of tallying up what happens as the result of a project. We expect there to be accomplishments. We like the kids to wind up with something on their resume. Could be reports, publications, presentations, models, whatever, and we keep track of them. Something the faculty are very excited about is university or private funds support the team projects. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Next. Okay, this, you don't have to read the whole thing. This is just to tell you that creative inquiry is embedded in the Clemson culture. And I looked at the NSF brochure on broader impacts, and one comment they made is they wanted to see things that demonstrate institutional commitment. Certainly PureWise with its 30-year history. Creative inquiry also has a substantial history. We date back to 2005 when we have steadily grown and diversified our program over the years. Next slide. Okay, Clemson creative inquiry has always also supported Clemson priorities. We previously supported the previous Clemson strategic plan, Clemson Forward. We've been very involved in the last year in the new quality enhancement plan, which has its goal to increase experiential learning. They're using CI as one of the model programs. And I know Clemson Elevate is still in the works, but the basic pillars of the #1 student experience, research, and the broad category of serving the state, creative inquiry projects can fit within all of those areas. And of course, diversity, equity, inclusive excellence, because you can do just about anything with a creative inquiry project. We have a number of projects already that approach DEI topics. Next. Okay, Jane also mentioned keeping track of things. Creative inquiry is fanatic about keeping track of things. This is a picture, is a snapshot for the 2021-2022 year. We keep track of the number of students who are in creative inquiry. We actually keep track of the names of the students in creative inquiry. Those wheels on the bottom show the approximate distributions of projects amongst the various college, and then mentors, faculty, staff, or grad students who are mentoring the programs. You don't have to look at the details. Just notice that every college is represented. The CCAS certainly is large. So is CBA, business, behavioral, social, and health sciences. This new name always gets me. We ask for, when you have a CI project, we ask for annual reports, and we beat you into submission if you don't give them to us, but they're very short. It's a paragraph or a couple of lines. But what we do is in the context of the annual reports, we keep track of what you've accomplished in your creative inquiry projects. So this is actually what faculty have reported to us for the 2021-2022 year. I will have a caveat on that. There was some catch up in that year because of the COVID years just before. So they reported that they published 170 publications in peer-reviewed journals. That's just peer-reviewed journals, that their students and faculty got 214 awards. They did 85 presentations at professional conferences. That is lower, considerably lower than usual. Again, post-COVID issues. They also told us that they received $6 million in external grants and $400,000 in corporate and foundation gifts as a consequence of the work done in their CI projects. And we like to see that, and I'm sure Jane likes to see that. Next. We're interested in what creative inquiry does for the institution, but especially interested in what they do for the students. Students are required, but you can't beat them into it. We send out surveys every semester to every student in creative inquiry. We encourage the faculty to encourage the kids to get these back to us. They're useful. We look at them quantitatively, but also qualitatively. And so a couple of years ago, we analyzed 4,000 surveys, the narrative comments in 4,000 surveys, came up with 23 top topics that the kids felt, top reasons why they do CI. I picked the top 5. They find it useful for career preparation, involvement in hands-on research. They love the fact that creative inquiry programs, projects let them get into real world, have real world experiences. They like the networking value of it, networking within their project. And if the project involves entities outside of the university or outside of their project, sometimes with corporations, they like that. And then they learn teamwork skills. So this is a little bit different than one-on-one undergraduate research, and that the kids are expected to work in teams. Next. Okay, these are the benefits that we have culled over the years as being useful for faculty. And this works for faculty grant research as well as any other research. The one thing is assistance with the research. You can have bright Clemson undergraduates help you with the data collection and analysis. Jane also mentioned, and I'll reinforce the fact, that your graduate students and postdocs can mentor projects. We want to make sure that they're going to do it in a way that is beneficial for the undergraduates, but it also absolutely benefits the graduate student, postdoc, and faculty research. And the students often like having graduate student mentors. They seem a little more connected sometimes, and sometimes a grad student is willing to do something like stuff a van full of students, stuff a bunch of students into a van and drive 6 hours to take them to a conference, or stay up all night working on a presentation. It worked out very well. Faculty are always very interested in the fact that we have funding, and even though you have a grant supporting your research, you can apply for creative inquiry funding up to $4,000 a year, depending on the number of students you have, because we consider this to be a way of involving undergraduates in your research that your grant might not have anticipated. So even if you use this for your broader impacts, and I hope that you put some funds in for the broader impact project, you can additionally get money from CI. So you can get money for project supplies. You can request money for travel. If the students are co-authoring presentations at conferences, we have a summer program, which is the only time we pay any kind of student salaries. And a faculty mentor can apply for summer support for one student to sort of clean up research, get things going for the next year. We also have recently opened up the opportunity for faculty grants for open publishing. And we do this, and the library does it as well, and so do we. So that's open for you. We seek to publicize what you do. We have a magazine, and I would invite you to go to the CI website and look at it, or ask us for paper copies. We have an annual magazine that profiles 20 or 30 projects. We like to show you off. We like to show the world with the work you're doing. We also push news releases, social media. We also offer the opportunity for online recruiting for your projects. Useful, especially if you have an interdisciplinary project. Let's say you're in, I'll pick on chemical engineering again, and you need somebody from history. Our website and the student networks there can help you. Next. Okay, I'm going to go through this just briefly. If your project is involving industry, we do have a formal program called Corporate Creative Inquiry that invites industries to come in and support creative inquiry projects. And in this, the industry partner would provide a project topic or challenge, or you and the partner would work it out together. They regard it as useful as a mechanism for recruiting students for internships or as employees. They like the long-term engagement with the students starting as early as the freshman year. And this offers a different mechanism than internships and co-ops, especially in the terms of interdisciplinary projects and long-term visibility on campus. The students have really liked corporate creative inquiry, again, because it's real-world projects. They gain skills, and it's a way for them to engage with companies or entities outside of Clemson without physically moving to go to a co-op or an internship. Next. Okay, so basically, if I want to address the broader impact side of this, creative inquiry is a method for broader impacts. You can use it as a vehicle to do many different things within broader impacts. I pulled just a few of the desired societal outcomes that Jane had on her presentation. These, among others, it's a way you can use this to improve STEM education. You can use CI for improving public scientific literacy and engagement, providing infrastructure and resources for education, training, and workforce development. Certainly for enhancing partnerships, you can bring in partners within a creative inquiry project. Lots of our projects do it. Jane also mentioned the UN goals, and then quality of life sustainability. All of this can be built in. I mentioned especially that creative inquiry projects can be multidisciplinary. We have projects that'll have 3 mentors or 4 mentors from different disciplines. Often projects have students from multiple disciplines. And for those of you who are mostly STEM, if you're looking at the NSF, NIH type of projects, creative inquiry is a great way to engage with non-STEM students, to bring them into the research. It also is a potential way to recruit them to STEM. So it's not something to be, something you should consider. Next, I have a couple examples. So as does Sarita, I write a lot of letters for people who ask for the ability to have a CI project as a part of their broader impacts. So some of the ways that it works. So you can either have the kids actually engaged in your research. The students could assist in data collection and analysis, both field and lab studies. We have found that a lot of the projects that have field work, especially, like to have undergraduates involved with them. Often they need hands. Same thing goes in the lab. We've had MRI proposals that incorporate creative inquiry projects as a way of getting undergraduate students to use the MRI equipment to further justify getting the equipment. The team can itself include either a general population or targeted populations, such as the ones Sarita mentioned. I'll mention another targeted population on campus that isn't often thought about, that we should. We have a program for first-generation college students on campus, and that is also an attractive population for some granting agencies. And the program, it's called FIRST. It was created through a National Science Foundation STEP grant back in 2005. So again, that's another targeted population that could be included within your creative inquiry team. But you can also have creative inquiry teams work on broader impact topics or activities where the students are not, they're helping you with an outreach kind of project. K-12 outreach is a great one. I spent 20 plus years doing outreach to K-12 teachers and students, and getting undergraduates involved with that is very powerful. I had one project where I had students, I chose students from Clemson who were who had grown up in certain downstate communities, and I had them working with the teachers and students in their home communities. Very powerful on both sides. Students can help you with public engagement and scientific literacy. They can help you. You can get marketing students to help you write your publicity. Help you write your brochures. They're great with communications, helping you go to meetings, present to the public. Good in creating. I've had students who do Adobe projects for us, Adobe graphics. They're great with social media. They can collaborate with student teams. I've been working, a may at the end of that is wrong. I've been working with the Global Engagement Office, and we've been trying to get programs where a creative inquiry team at Clemson will collaborate with a creative inquiry team in another country, and they'll work on the same or similar projects and then meet virtually to exchange information to advance the project. Same thing could work with students at a partner institution. You have a project here at Clemson, you have a collaborator in Wyoming. You can get students at both places to be involved with the project, as well as having the faculty collaboration. And basically, any project that's appropriate for undergraduate involvement is appropriate to use creative inquiry. Next. So if you want to set up a CI project, basically if you want to set up a project on a grant, talk to me and I'll help you. But basically you design the project, identify the department for the course. And as I say, we have some projects that are multidisciplinary. So the CI course could be in one of several departments. And then identify a mentor, or I should say more than one mentor if you like it, if you prefer that. And the mentor is in charge of guiding the project and especially managing the course, all of the administrative issues of the course, grading and whatever. And again, mentors can be faculty, they can be graduate students or staff. And then you submit everything online. The Creative Inquiry website tells you just about everything that you need to know. Flip to the last slide. Okay, if you want to learn more about creative inquiry, we are having a mentor forum on experiential education, March 16th here at the Watt. And in the morning, we'll talk about experiential learning in general and how it relates to CI. In fact, Sheila is going to be one of our speakers. And after that, after those speakers, we're going to have a mentor panel where we bring in some of our CI mentors to talk about how they've been using CI. In the afternoon, we're going to have a new mentor an orientation for new mentors and talk about various opportunities for mentors. I should mention that one of the opportunities we have for mentors through private gifts, we have a Bradley Award for creative inquiry mentoring for faculty, and we have another award for graduate students who mentor in creative inquiry projects. Both awards carry a monetary award plus a plaque. And that is me. Flip to the last one just for the contacts. Actually, questions, and then flip to the last one and they can look at that. While and this is if you need me, it's how you find me. Cora Allard-Keese is the Creative Inquiry Associate Director. She handles a lot of the details and funding on a day-to-day basis with the projects. She's great to help you get started. So what can I help? What questions do you have? Tell me.
Hey, Barbara, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How do faculty find students who might want to be part of this? So for example, if your appointment's in sociology, you're probably most familiar with sociology students, but how about if you need people from engineering or computing or other disciplines? Do you have a mechanism whereby students find out about these different projects, or are faculty expected to kind of come with their own students to do
Okay.
these projects?
Great question. We do have a, when you go through and put together your creative inquiry project online, there will be a box that says, do you want to advertise your project? And if you click yes, what it asks you to do is to write a short, like 300-word advertising description about what you're going to do in your project. And then you can check off the majors that you want. So you want a history major. So you click history and click off any of the other majors you want. If you want all majors, there's a click for all majors. And then that goes onto a page on the Creative Inquiry website, excuse me, called Find a Project. And students can go to that page and they can either browse, or they can search by topic, or they can search by major. Okay, so if you have a history major who comes to the page, the history major could click history, but then everything that is specifically asked for a history major will come up, but also all the projects that have said all majors will come up. Students tell us that they use it. And also, we also do recommend that if you really have targeted students that you want, that either you or you let us help you get to the specific department and just put out some ads with the faculty. So that helps too. I've also often used the associate deans if a project is broader, but I'll happily help you connect with faculty.
Thank you, Barbara.
Anybody else?
I have a bunch of questions.
Okay.
So when faculty submit these proposals, are they are they automatically accepted, or do some people, you go to some of them and say, this just isn't ready for prime time yet?
Yes. Yes, we have a review process and everything is not automatically accepted. Cora Allard is the one who sits there and negotiates with faculty. We want there to be research in the project, and we want the kids to be involved, and we want the students to get something out of it. So you cannot use, we always use, service learning is one example that I use. If you want to send students out to an elementary school to tutor, that could be service learning, but it's not research unless the students then analyze the effects of it. If you're involving students in research in your lab, we want the students to do something more than just rote chores where they don't understand what they're doing and they're just doing it for you. We want the students to be involved. Creative inquiry is something that students take quite a bit of ownership in. They'll walk around talking about my CI. They'll also tell us that when they go to job interviews or grad school interviews and they have CI and the project on their resume, they can take over the interview by talking about something that they were truly invested in and proud of. So
it seems like also the creative inquiry framework would be a great thing within which to implement team science principles.
yes.
And I'm wondering, do you require that the faculty give specific training to postdocs or grad students who are going to be leading the CI teams?
We have not to date. We have over the years attempted to get the graduate school to provide that sort of training, and I'm going to re-begin the effort, not to target the grad school. That training has somewhat fallen between the cracks as to who should do it. OTEI focuses on the faculty. I think the grad school would be a useful place for that. So we have not provided any specific training, though we will work with specific grad students, postdocs or whatever, or faculty to help them understand what they need to do.
Yeah, I see a lot of proposals where the PIs are saying they're going to do that training individually with them, but I wish there was something more collective for them to tap into, than, because not all the faculty are the best people, I think, to dispense that type of training.
I will
So.
redouble efforts to get this done, and whether we continue, whether we find a way to provide it, or we get an agency on campus that is more appropriate.
Yeah.
I agree, it's needed. I've been
Um,
trying to get that somebody else to do that
yeah.
for 10 years.
Yep. Story of my life. So so sometimes faculty want to have teams that extend over, the entire period of the grant.
That's
So let's
fine,
say
great.
the grant is 5 years. Can they put in one time for that creative inquiry project, and they don't have to apply every year?
They don't have to apply every year. What we do ask every year, okay, what you have to do, so you apply for the project, you write the description and all that. Every semester, you need to go in and put in the course number and section, so we can track students. And by you putting the course number and section, we also know that the CI project is active.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't have to apply every year. We like the idea of a project, whether it's grant associated with a grant or not. We like the idea of a project that extends over multiple years with the students cycling in and out, much as you would within a lab. We like it, especially if you have the students sort of overlapping so that the older students are helping the younger ones.
Yep.
It works very well that way. We do ask that at the end of every year, you provide an annual report so we can keep track of our metrics. But it's not very offensive. And the people who are on here who are CI mentors, I see Heather smiling because she's on my screen. You can attest to whether or not what we do is offensive.
And I had a question about the metrics. With how far out do you track those? Like, is it just at the end of the, for example, you're talking about grants that they got, consequences
We
that
want
occur.
Okay, so when you ask people to self-report, you're always at the mercy of them doing it. We
Yep.
want them to tell us anytime whether they've gotten a grant, whether they published. Lots of times the grants, especially the publications they report maybe for CI work that was done 3 years previously.
Right.
We expect that.
Okay.
So it's basically, as long as we can keep them in the program, we can keep asking them to tell us the metrics. If they dropped completely out of creative inquiry, it would be harder for us.
And when you're collecting data on the publications, do you split out those that are including students as co-authors? Or
These include students as co-authors, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I mean, is it like a separate category in your data?
No, but we can.
Just wondering. That's the thing that NSF loves, so.
Okay, we can add, I will check with Cora to see how many include students as co-authors, but I would say most of them do.
Yeah.
Okay, we can get a special number for that. That's another thing. Because we have metrics, if you need us to write some sort of a targeted text, including metrics for CI accomplishments, number of CI students in your particular discipline, we can do that. We produce annual reports for each college in which we tell the college a lot of different ways of how many of their students took CI that year, how many students from other colleges took CI. We list all the projects. We can fine tune it. We can custom tune a report for you. that
That's
you
great.
can for any grant proposal. Yeah, and we like doing that. And we
That's
can go
awesome.
back to the history of CI, really. So we can go back to the early 2000s.
Okay.
Hey, Barbara and Jane, Diana has her hand raised. Diana, you want to ask her question?
Yeah, so I was wondering, I been having this CI for 2 semesters now, and we're getting ready to publish a paper with one of the students that was involved. And I was wondering if you would like to have like the affiliations of the student to be to creative inquiry.
We
some-
do, if you're going to publish something, or if you get a grant or something, anything you publish, we would like you to cite CI as a partially funded by CI. There's a statement on the website that we would recommend that you use. Is that the question?
Okay. So,
Yeah.
well, no, my question was more like the institutional affiliations, because sometimes we name centers, departments, programs. So I was wondering about, for the student, if it will be appropriate to include his affiliation to CI, or just to the like the department that they're enrolled in.
I guess that would depend on where you're doing it. I think it would be hard to do up in the list of authors. Would it be?
Yeah, I don't think that, Deanna, I don't think that you would use that for a student's affiliation. Typically, that means, the academic unit in terms of departments and colleges, but not other things.
Right, but I would like you to reference CI at some point.
In the acknowledgements,
Yeah, the acknowledgements, that would be good. Good.
Okay.
Considering
Just-
that the
I know
students have so
some
many-
centers, like some centers require or ask that we include them in the affiliations. I don't know why, maybe it helps the metrics somehow, or doing like search using Web of Science or one of those engines. Maybe it's easier to find those.
Yeah, no one's really asked that one before. I'm just considering the fact that you may have students with several different majors.
Mhm.
You could, double asterisk them as CI. You could do it. We haven't required it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being in CI.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really useful. I learned some things I didn't know. Next up is Dominic Sanders. Good morning, Dominic.
Good morning. How are you?
We're good.
All right. So good morning, everyone. Thank you again, Jane, for this opportunity. Again, my name is Dominic Sanders. I work at the South Carolina Department of Education as the Computer Science State Supervisor. So in a nutshell, anything that you can think of that involves K-12 computer science, I have my hand in it somewhere. So just giving you all a quick snapshot of computer science here in South Carolina. So when you look at our high school space, we're one of 5 states now that have that graduation requirement. So all students in South Carolina are required to take computer science for a full year. Because of that graduation requirement, we're actually #1 in the nation for students enrolling in an introductory course. We have 93% of our high schools offering computer science courses, which is 2nd in the nation. And then we actually have more girls in South Carolina enrolling in computer science courses than pretty much the southeastern states combined. So this is just a look at the access report. So we started out the graduation requirement in 43%. And then of course, it took a while for us to get to 93%. But one of the big things was about being more intentional on collaboration, teacher supports, as well as giving those different provisions so everyone can have access to computer science. So here at the Department of Ed, this is our vision essentially for our computer science work. So just envisioning a state where all South Carolina students learn computer science K-12 and be equipped with the computational thinking skills they need to thrive in a digitally powered economy. We all know everything nowadays is going digital, so we want to make sure that all our students have access, but not only access, making sure that they're having meaningful experiences as well as going along with that, because we know no matter what career path our students choose here in South Carolina, computer science is an integrated part of that. So it goes back to our mission. So we believe that computer science is key. So like that kindling piece. So that just goes back to that, like the computational thinking. So how are we creating meaningful experiences for our students here in South Carolina, whether it's a in-person experience, whether it's an out of class experience, or just thinking about those different ways. Of course, we're really big on the equity piece. One thing that has been a very success again is that graduation requirement. So in the state, we really don't have those different disparities for students having access to computer science opposed to other states. So because everybody now, it's a graduation requirement. So if you are a student here, you must take this course. And then that U piece just goes back to the reason why I am here. Just thinking about how can we foster better collaborations between the Department of Ed and our other community partners. I can say that this forum has been very successful so far, Jane. I don't know if you know about Goal, but her NSF proposal did get accepted, and I met Goal last year around this same time when we did the letter of collaboration on that. So this has been very successful in that aspect. And again, we always look at that servant leadership piece and just saying, it takes all of us at the end of the day, making sure that our efforts are aligned, because once the kids leave K-12, we want to make sure that they have a solid foundation so then they can matriculate into the institutions of higher learning. So right now, here are some of my big areas of focus. So looking at computer science in the special populations lens, because we have that graduation requirement, we also want to make sure that we're just not giving baseline courses for our students of special pop. So figuring out ways, how are they will be able to take some of our APCSAs, or how are they able to get involved in cyber? So making sure that those students also have access to advanced courses if they would like to take that. Cybersecurity, that's been a big push in the state. I don't know if you guys know, but cybersecurity is actually one of the governor's big initiatives this year during his 4-year term. So there will be a lot of emphasis, a lot of money, a lot of research efforts being put into this cybersecurity space. The next one is AI. So we all know AI is already here. So making sure in this K-12 space, we're really looking at, my team and I were really looking at artificial intelligence as on a holistic approach. So similar to computer science, like how we have the graduation requirement, we want to make sure that all students have access to artificial intelligence. So similar to how we have like this computer science profile, the same thing with artificial intelligence. So of course we will have our high school courses and pathways, but we still want to make sure all students have access. So we're actually right now developing an artificial intelligence K-12 framework. And just to say, if you were a student here in South Carolina, by the time you graduate from high school, you will have these basic core competencies as it relates to artificial intelligence. And then of course, K-8 integration. That is a big push in the agency. Again, because we have that high school graduation requirement, in order to satisfy that graduation requirement early on, we had a long list of courses that would satisfy that graduation requirement. But our goal very soon, probably around the year 2025, 2026, actually to begin condensing that list down. But we know that we can never condense that list down if we don't put a more integrated approach onto the K-8 side and making sure we're putting more efforts into that. That way we are effectively building that pipeline. So then by the time students do have to take that graduation requirement course, they already have the basic solid foundations as it relates to computer science. So these are the 3 links. So this first one is my contact information. If you ever need to meet, chat about anything I talked about or any other things, that works. Jane knows I've been to Clemson probably about 5 times this year. So if in-person meetings work better for you, I was actually up there just meeting last week with Danny and Goal about a K-8 project they're interested in proposing. And then these two are very important. The next two are the listserv. So we have a regional listserv. That's just, I actually have 4 other individuals on my team. So I have 4 regional coaches. So they help with the implementation of the computer science initiative, and then the statewide listserv. And that is for anyone, and both of them for anyone. But if you guys ever have anything that you would like to put out to the masses, if you're looking for teachers for a project, if you need help finding students, if you want to go out statewide, I can post it, send it out on the statewide listserv, or if you are looking for particular schools in a particular region, then we would send it out on the regional listserv. And that's the whole presentation. I tried to make it as short as possible and give you guys time to ask me any questions that you may like.
Thank you, Dominic. I think those last few words you just said about contacting people are some of the most important things for people in this workshop to hear, because the question that I get asked most often, I think, is how do I get in touch with the schools? How do I find the teachers? Unless they've got the relationship already established, or they know somebody who knows somebody, then they're really at sea as far as finding the people.
Right. And I can honestly say here in South Carolina, we have a great group of teachers that are willing to do the work as it relates to computer science. Danny asked me, we were at the summit, she was like, hey, Dominic, I'm about to present this proposal, but before I present this proposal, I need to find 3 schools. I said, okay, you tell me what you need. And within an hour, she had the schools that she needed. And we just had a computer science professional development in Anderson last week, and we had about 65 teachers show up. So all of them are willing and eager to do the work. So if you need help, don't let that be a hindrance or a barrier for you all. If you need help, really need help finding teachers or the student subjects, whether it's Title I, urban, rural, suburban, whatever you need. I'm almost certain I have those direct contacts with teachers. If you need a superintendent, if you need CTE directors, if you need just the elementary, middle school, or a high school principal, I have those direct contacts as well.
So Dominic, your personal bailiwick is the computer science, but can they come to you to ask for help if they're not in computer science? Can you steer them in the right direction?
Yeah, I can definitely
I
can definitely help steer them in the other directions to get them to other contacts with other people. And then I didn't really mention that in that K-8 space with integration, but one thing that we are actually looking to do with computer science, actually use it as more of a collaboration between other different disciplines. So our goal is to really start expanding computer science out to the non-traditional courses. So what does computer science look like in the math classroom? What does it look like in language arts? If it's in history, how can we embed computer science into our K-8 history classes? How can we embed it in our music class? How can we embed it in our different art classes? So if you guys are familiar with the 6C conference, it'll be in Toronto. Maybe in about 3 weeks, we're actually presenting there about our barbershop computing initiative. So that was a partnership between us and the Computer Science Initiative, our Family Consumer Science CTE career cluster, and actually like the barbershop. So those students actually get a chance to make those different designs, and all the kids get in their heads now on the platform using JavaScript.
Yeah, all you need is a barbershop quartet in there, and then you'd be complete.
Yep. Yep.
Bringing a different art.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah. So also about the regional coordinators, can you tell us what they do?
Yeah. So they are essentially my boots on the ground. So I focus more on the policy implementation, big picture stuff, and anything as it relates to like teachers needing help with the lesson, learning more about the standards, any of those different things, they focus a lot more on there. So if, for example, if you were selected to get an NSF proposal and you wanted a little bit more tangible feedback from like the teachers, my regional coach could literally go to that school and watch them really implement it in real time, give you more feedback if you're not able to do that. So they spend a lot of time meeting with the teachers. So teachers is the first line. And then of course they have time meeting with administrators and superintendents. And then they also are responsible for a loaner program. So each 4 of them have their own loaner program. And we really utilize that loaner program to, especially with our Title I enrolled students, to let them get more of a hands-on physical computing experience.
Yeah. Excuse me. So one of the things I just wanted to mention to the group is that if you have, let's say you form a relationship with just one class of students, that's one thing. But if you can hook into, a statewide network that is involved in advancing computer science, then your broader impacts automatically go off the chart because you're contributing to this much larger effort. And Dominic has been on campus several times. He comes and talks to my Career Academy and forms, quickly very good relationships with faculty who then can leverage those relationships and get funded, and it's mutually beneficial. So he's very active in this space, and I know from experience welcomes your ideas. So and he's an innovative thinker, so if you've got something you think is kind of out of the box, that's fine. Put it past him and see what he says, because he will help you implement it. Anybody else have questions? If not, I'm gonna share my screen and take us to the end here. So I just got some kind of helpful tips at the end of this workshop, and feel free to jump in anytime and ask me questions. It's, as you can tell, really important to contact any potential partners as soon as possible so that you can develop a plan that is indeed mutually beneficial. It really has become a pervasive problem with PIs going to people like 2 weeks before the proposal is due, or even less. And then they panic when they're knocking on, sometimes literally knocking on doors and nobody's there to answer them. And so start it as soon as possible. That lets them help shape, conceptualize the project, and gets their buy-in and makes a much more integrated project after all. Make sure that you recognize the value of their contributions and budget accordingly. The funding agencies are going to judge you, judge your commitment to these things on the basis of the money that you're putting towards it. They really look at whether or not it is indeed mutually beneficial. And this is something that you should not treat as just a one-shot thing for a particular proposal, but during your tenure at Clemson, think about how you need to build this network and what components you want to add so that 5-10 years from now, you really have a very robust system of collaborators that you can bring to bear in a proposal. Any kind of broader impacts or significance sort of statement has to make that leap to a much higher level and still sound believable. So oftentimes I look at proposals and they get to that, in an NSF proposal, they get to the broader impact section. And of course, the rhetoric normally gets amped up. You're using much more usually emotion-laden language. And when you're talking about quality of life and, you know, impacting society, it naturally lends itself to that higher level. But you need to make sure that you're just not making sweeping claims about what you think your project can enable, but that you've got reason to believe that it's possible. So quantifying that impact is super important. Make sure you've got activities set up that clearly lead to those sorts of indicators. Okay. You can start small, pilot something now, and say, in the out years beyond the scope of this project, I'm going to look for funding to help scale this up. And that's perfectly allowable and believable as well. But what you don't want to say is that, you know, I'm going to get one more female in my lab, woohoo, and thereby make this huge impact on workforce development, because that will not fly with the reviewers. I see that time and again. Make sure that your BI statement is not only aligned with your own interests and your expertise, but also with community needs. Oftentimes I see people saying, I'm going to impact the world in this way. Isn't it great? But unless you've got stakeholders that are expressing interest in that project, and you can document that, like maybe you hold a listening session or a town hall type thing, or maybe you send out a survey. Unless you've got some sort of way of documenting an interaction with a stakeholder group, you likely will be in trouble with those reviewers. You can also search awards in your area on the various websites for the agencies, and see what others have proposed and, you know, what is being funded recently. It's important to also not just say what you're looking towards getting in terms of outcomes or deliverables, but, you know, what is your baseline? Because nobody can judge how great that target goal is unless you give us a baseline. So this can require you going to people like Sarita and finding out, or the institutional research office, to find out what those baseline data are. And one of the things that's really important with broader impacts, of course, is somewhere along the line, you need to tell us how you're going to know if you're successful. So, you know, the worst sort of thing is if you say, oh, I'm going to do a dog and pony show at this local elementary school, the end. So unless you can tell us that there's something you're going to measure to find out if this has an impact, then you can't claim that impact at the end of the proposal. So it's really important to develop those metrics. Additional resources for you. These are really good to look at especially if you're just new at this sort of thing and you don't really have a grip on what broader impacts entails. These will be available, of course, online when we post these slides. Okay. You people writing NSF proposals, make sure that you distinguish between broader impacts and broadening participation. CPI's mixing those up all the time in the proposals. So broadening participation is just one little bit of broader impacts, right? And for NSF, if you do not have a separate section in the project description with a heading that says broader impacts and not broader impact, your proposal will be returned without review. Okay, seen that happen actually, because the person wrote broader impact and not broader impacts, it got returned. Also, you can't weasel out of it by working broader impacts in throughout the proposal. You can do that, should do that, still have to have that separate broader impact section. Help that we can give you. We can put you in touch with lots of resources here at Clemson and outside. As you can see, we've got a lot of experience doing this. And we work directly with the PIs to conceptualize the components. I will needle you about the evaluation plan and some other things, but I'm trying to push you to get to a place where this is a really well-conceived, tight argument you're making. And in our proposal repository, eventually we'll have a separate category for the broader impact statements and load all those in so that you can look at them. So I believe that is the end. I will stop sharing. Who's got some questions?
What do y'all think is the most challenging aspect of trying to figure out how to best address broader impacts?
I would say for me, I think it's not hitting that grandiose scale and actually scaling it back to more achievable goals. And I think it's important also to show how you're going to measure these outcomes, not just make sweeping statements.
Anybody else?
Well, I can tell you what I see from my experience, and maybe some of you guys will concur. But Heather's point is very well taken. Is that you know, the language in the solicitation really seems to encourage you to go for that, you know, really high level stuff. Yes, I will save the world, but that's not believable. So it's, you know, when they look at your broader impact statement in an NSF proposal, for example, or anyone, when you're talking about significance to society, if you say you're going to impact, say, a stakeholder group, the reviewer is going to work backward from that and start, you know, looking for where you build the activity. You know, how have you framed the activity? Is it funded? Are you hitting the right group? How do you know that's going to work? So if you can refer to other studies that have been done, say, with a comparable group or even with that group, and they've implemented certain, let's call them interventions, and you're going to tweak it a bit. They actually like that because it helps reduce the risk, but still goes off into another direction. So especially, let's say you're writing an NSF proposal, Heather, Dustin, Haha, and Deanna, then if you can say, oh, I looked up, here's this model that I'm going to use that was funded by another NSF grant, and I'm going to use it in my career proposal, but I'm going to use it, apply it to a different group or different discipline, different contexts. They like that. So it shows that you're leveraging not only NSF money, but you're also leveraging the intellectual content that the taxpayer money generated. So you take something that's known and apply it to an unknown thing. So that helps mitigate the risk. There's with broader impact statements, I think there's always a really big risk of sounding like you're just blowing hot air, right? So if you can tie it to something that they know is proven, that helps address that problem. But the other thing too I was going to mention is I think that it's particularly flummoxing for the newer faculty who haven't developed the networks yet to find where these groups are, and how do I find the contact information, and what do I need to do, how far ahead do I have to plan. I meant to ask Barbara that about creative inquiry, but forgot. I don't know how far in advance she's got to get those proposals, but I'm sure it's on the website for a course. They have to get it in enough time in order to put it in the course catalog. So just figuring out the logistics, I think, of these activities, and how to mesh them with the research piece or your education piece in a proposal is where I come in working with the faculty. Anybody else have other questions or comments? If not, I think we'll wrap it up and see you next time.